Welcome back to another outdoor philosophy. It's starting to get nice out, and it's even too nice for this jacket too, but whatever, I'm wearing it already. Alright, so we're going to continue to talk about the Lucifer Principle. This is probably going to be a short video. There is not a lot that I can say about philosophy from this perspective. There is a ton about the Christian thing. There's a whole lot about, there's a lot of things that I battled from the Christian point of view, but not quite as much here. So really the only things I can pull out is the first couple sections. So the overall concept here is the mysteries of the evolutionary learning machine. And the biggest thing I guess I can talk about is maybe use this time to talk about the warnings of AI and the warnings of machine learning and even self-autonomous robots and things like that. That's probably the only thing I can really tie into this. Ultimately, they begin looking at the concept of a neural net being a better solution than a simple straight line processing. So the way a standard single computer processes data is kind of this straight line processing. Kind of goes through what are the sets of commands, how quickly can I process the sets of commands and move the data, ship the data back to where it needs to be. What they talked about here is that if that is the only way that societies and worlds and whatever else developed, then that in and of itself would probably lead to not a lot of development. But when you get people together in large groups, so I guess what I can probably do here is talk about maybe the importance of help and the synergy of working together. You've probably heard that expression, if you take two horses that can each pull 800 pounds, they've never been yoked together, you yoke them together, they don't pull 16, they end up pulling like 24 or higher 100 pounds. And so basically it's that pattern of synergy. When you get people on, even myself, I was looking at, I'm doing some podcasty things, and there's still some people I'm bouncing some of these ideas off with other people, because you can't just do everything by yourself. If you do everything absolutely by yourself, you're bound to have a lot slower growth. And so the question is, can you work together synergistically? And so they talk about here what they call the traveling businessman's problem, the traveling salesman's problem. You have 10 different cities you need to get to, and you have to figure out the best route. And so based on the number of roads and whatever else, you might find there's about 180,000 different ways to get there. Well, in theory, if you actually dive into it and start looking at maps, you realize there are certainly some directions. It's not as clear-cut as they try and make it in this. And I mean, as somebody who used to be a geocacher, I'll tell you it's not as clear-cut, because there is a whole lot that we can do on our way to figure out the best paths we take without actually getting that deeply involved in the paths to begin with. Okay? And so with that being said, this is kind of talking about how if you take computers and node them together, basically the way these botnets are coming together, what you end up with is each individual thing can process its own little portion of the problem and then feed all the data back to one central processing system that will take each of the sub-calculations and basically can work on the progress way faster than if you were to simply be working on it individually by yourself. And that's kind of the take-home message is when you're trying to get something off the ground, when you're trying to work a system or a problem, you want to see if there's other people that can help you in what you're doing. And in this case, for me, it's asking who can help, how can they help, and is it worth the help? Because there's certain things we want to do ourselves. There's certain things we would like to have done that we are not skilled in, and so you pass that on to someone else. And then you need to figure out, is this some type of paid thing? Is this some type of volunteer thing? What is it that you're trying to accomplish, and how can you get there? And that's kind of where this section gets into, is figuring out that the societies themselves, as we group ourselves together. In fact, the next chapter is called Society as a Neural Net. And this is where we can help grow either businesses or projects or whatever else we're doing. Each person solves their own part of the question, and thus a society itself becomes this neural net. It's that whole concept of the memes coming together. You know, only this is individual people working on memes rather than just randomly coming and colliding together. That's kind of what they're doing, but they're looking at societies can come together and basically grow themselves based on helping one another. Now, from that point, this entire section just goes way downhill. It kind of actually gets into some of the more modern things we're seeing now, very relevant, but interesting things, and definitely not related to this. So the next section is entitled, by the way, The Expendability of Males, how males are just this expendable resource, and it's really the females, the women and the children are important. And this is kind of interesting because this comes 20 years before this whole movement where everybody is, everyone's all on an equal plane. Even this comes by and says even throughout the centuries, this is how it is. So it's not that chauvinistic men have produced a society. It's that men are expendable, and that's why we're out there. From there, like I said, it just kind of goes downhill fast into, how men are society's dice. And then it just gets into some really deep fallacies of biological evolution, in which I counter on the Christian channel, so I'm not even going to deal with those here. In fact, that's pretty much all I'm going to do. So like I said, short video, short section. Check out the Christian one if you got the time. I realize this was a little bit shorter. That one's a little bit longer, but thanks for watching. You can help support the channel at switchtolinux.com/support. Check out our shop, shop.switchtolinux.com, and I'm on Patreon, patreon.com/TomM. Thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.